Today's video, we'll be taking a look at yet another Compaq Deskpro.
We review old technology from games to old PCs, and don't forget the doors. Oh, get ancient electronics. We cover it all.
So, very recently I did a video on a Compaq Deskpro. This is a different machine, more or less, in what's inside it and the style, but it's still very similar. Enough so that I considered just not making a video on this machine. But you guys seem to really like the OEM build videos. I mean, personally, I find these things a little bit boring, but I know maybe a lot of you have attachments with machines like this, so these videos seem to do pretty well dealing with these OEM machines. So I guess this one is different enough from the one I did very recently that we can take a look at it. Plus the video card inside of it is one I've never encountered before, although it's nothing special. So yeah, this is another Compaq Deskpro from the late 90s. I picked this up with that Dell L-Series machine that I recently did a video on, and like that machine, if you look down here, it also has a Celeron. So this, I got these from the same person. I don't know, I guess they were a Celeron fan, or they were just a fan of buying more budget-oriented computers. But yeah, I think this and the Dell were maybe used in more of a business-y setting. Neither of them are high-powered gaming machines. But this one's, again, very similar. The case style is similar. This can be used as a desktop, or you can stand it up as a little tower. Although I believe the case of the last Deskpro we looked at was a little bit different. This button and the lights were located kind of over here, and these were moved a little more towards the center. But other than that, it's pretty much the same. We do have 3 5.25-inch bays. One is occupied by a 1.44 megabyte floppy drive. No idea if this drive works. And we also have a CD drive, looks like a 52 times CD drive. I'm guessing this CD drive is from like an upgrade from the prior user. I doubt this is stock. And then we just have a blank here. I don't think this is well, I know this isn't the correct blank that goes with this because this bay was empty when I got the machine. So I just found a blank that just kind of fit and put it in there. Here we have the power button, again, and it's kind of like a weird vertical bar. Power LED light, hard drive activity light. This looks like this is a vent. You can see like the slots in it, so I don't think it's a fake vent. It looks like an actual vent. So yeah, that is the front of the Deskpro. Let's flip it around. So here is the back, and the first thing you might notice is this lid here isn't on right. And I'll talk about that in a moment, but I can't get it to fit on right. It is, I'm 99% sure this is the correct lid for this case, but there's something wrong with it that's preventing it from going on correctly, and it's been annoying me for days, and I cannot seem to fix it. But yeah, anyways, looking at the back here, nothing spectacular. 3-prong power connector, USB 1 point something, probably 1.1 or 1.2, don't know for sure. PS2 ports for keyboard and mouse, parallel port, 2 serial ports, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expansion bays, and it looks like 3 of them are taken up, one by a discrete video card. There's no built-in video. Sound card, which, well, I know what this is, but you could tell just by looking at it what it is. And then we have, I think this is like a modem card here. So let's take a look inside, but first let's look at this stupid door that I can't get to fit right. So I just can't get this thing to go on. I line it up. You can tell, 4 prongs, 4 little things here. It goes on okay, looks good. Looks like it will slide, but it stops. And if you push, it's this side actually. If you push, you can hear a little. And again, you probably can't see this, but if you look down right, I think it's here, there's like a metal piece that's popped. I don't know, it's not right. Or maybe it's on this side. Hold on. Yeah, here, it's right here. It's right here. You probably can't see it with the camera, but it's like there's these little metal things here, and this one is like unaligned or it's popped out, and I think it's hitting something, and it's preventing me from closing it. But for the life of me, I cannot fix it. I've tried like pliers, I've tried like straightening it, I've tried ripping it off. It stubbornly won't come off, so this thing is annoying the heck out of me. And I'm pretty sure it's because that metal piece that's just not, yeah, I can try to force it. I get it along like a screw, and I can manage to get this side flush. So even pushing I can, but not this side. It is that stupid little flake of metal that I can't get out. It's driving me crazy. But anyways, let's take a look inside. So here we are with that horrible case lid off. And as you can see, this is a different motherboard. This is a different set of innards from the last Compaq Deskpro. Here's our bays right here. I have a hard drive. Now I added this hard drive. It's not really in there really great. And it's not moving. And then we have these bays here. And then there's this interesting little button here. And I think what you press this down. And then what you can do, I believe you take this faceplate off, and then you press this down, and then you can slide these drives out. So that's what that is for. Right there we have one of the weirdest kind of heat sinks I've seen on a CPU or a Celeron. Just this weird thin piece of metal with these prongs. So this is a 333 megahertz slot 1 Celeron. So yeah, this is an older one, I think. But yeah, just a weird little ugly heat sink. But I guess it works. Chipset 443EX chipset. Not sure. I think that's just some kind of sub chipset of the 440 chipset. 66 megahertz front side bus. I am not 100% sure if it will take 100 megahertz front side bus. I'm not sure if we can put a Pentium in here. If we look at the little data sheet here, it only goes up to 333. Of course, that doesn't really mean anything. And I don't think it mentions anything about the Pentium 2 or anything like that. Just 66 megahertz front side bus. Now looking further, we have two sockets for memory. I don't remember how much is in there right now, and if I had to hazard a guess, I'd say this machine can take 512 maybe, 2 sticks of 256. That's my best guess. We do have an AGP ×2 slot, so that's nice, and we also have 3 PCI and then 3 16-bit ISA. So even though this is like not really an impressive machine overall, as like for a Windows power user, I guess, you can still potentially turn this into a pretty good Windows 9X machine for retro gaming, and also I would say DOS with those 16-bit ISA slots, and maybe we could put in like a 233 megahertz Celeron or something like that, and or whatever, and yeah, you can make a decent machine out of this for like DOS or Windows retro gaming, sure. So as far as the video and sound card in here, we'll start with the sound card. It's one of these, it's one of those Ensoniq PCI cards. This one's the Creative version, but I think it's the same chip. Creative bought them out. I have never had good luck with these. I've read they're supposed to be pretty good for like as DOS, like PCI cards in a DOS environment. They run pretty well and they're pretty compatible. And I don't know. I've never had much luck with these things. I don't think I've ever tried one under DOS though. But I can tell you, my experience with these cards under Windows is just, they're just terrible. I hate them. I've had nothing but problems with these kind of cards. But I'm going to leave this card in there and see how it does in this setup. Now the video card is this guy here. And this is interesting to me just because I have never come across one before. I don't think they're rare or anything. This is a Matrox, I think it was Matrox I was told to pronounce it. This is a Matrox G100. Now, I have come across a lot of G200s and of course G400. I like the G400 Max. I did a video on that card. Surprisingly decent gaming card. I've never come across the G100. I've come across the earlier cards like the Millenniums, the Matrox Mystique, and the Matrox Millennium. But somehow this card always eluded me. It's nothing special. It is a business productivity card. It's along the same vein as like the Permedia 3D cards. So yeah, this was primarily for like simple business office use, but it actually is half decent when it comes to gaming. So like I said, kind of like the Permedia card. I think that I did a video on that card earlier too. So you could have this in your business machine like this Compaq Deskpro, and you could do fairly well at video games. Now, this one supposedly is more or less kind of like the older Mystique or the Millennium, but it supports more features, so you might get less graphical glitches with games. It's not a speed demon or anything. I always liked the G200. I thought it always made like a decent DOS card. Pretty fast in DOS, although it couldn't do certain things like shadows and fog would look weird on it. Not quite correct. But it has really good like 2D image quality. And I always thought the G200 and probably this G100 too would be decent cards to maybe pair with a Voodoo 1 or Voodoo 2 because of its excellent like 2D image quality that might kind of offset any image loss you get from sort of running the cable from the Voodoo to your primary 2D card. So I always thought these were good to pair with like Voodoo cards. But yeah, I'm interested in what the G100 can do. There's not a lot of videos or info. Well, at least there's not a ton of videos on this card particularly out there on YouTube. There are a few. But yeah, I'm not saying it's a great card for gaming or retro gaming or anything, but I've only really dealt with the G200, so I'm curious what this thing can do.
Alright, so let's take a look in Everest here. We're just looking quick at the specs. There's the CPU exactly as we thought, Celeron 333. Taking a look at the motherboard here, Compaq Deskpro EP/SB series. Just some basic info here. And then the chipset, it actually says it's a 443LX/EX chipset. So I don't know, I think that's like a subset of the 440. Here's our graphics card, the Matrox G100. And then we have the bus width and all that good stuff. It's an AGP ×1 card. The slot is ×2, but it runs at ×1. And here's power strip with some basic info. It doesn't really let me do too much. I don't see it enabling me to like disable VSync or anything like that. So very little I could do here, but again, we get our engine clock and memory clock and stuff like that. And then finally, under display settings, we can take a look at the driver itself. 4 MB of memory on the card. Some options here for performance and desktop features. I just kind of left this as default. I didn't really change anything here. But just your basic stuff. Not a lot of major things you can do here with the drivers, but not terrible. And the first benchmark I'm going to try here is Final Reality. You can go to the advanced options and it shows you kind of what some of the features this card can do that it detects anyways. As you can see here, it's not detecting several of the features here. So Final Reality did okay. It didn't give a lot of issues. Now, if you're going to see here, and probably through a lot of this video, because my video capture devices are inconsistent on what they do, the image is a little bit dark, but it was fine on my CRT monitor. So I'm sorry if this image just comes off a little bit dark here with the direct capture, but on my CRT it looked fine. I also have to say that through the capture and then the YouTube compression, it doesn't actually show how good the 2D image quality was with this card. I have to say that on my CRT, the colors were very vibrant, it was very sharp. I was pretty impressed with the image quality on my CRT as I was playing. Now, as for Final Reality, again, it did okay. I didn't see a lot of glitches, but it did do what I was expecting it to do, because It seems like all of the older Matrox cards have this issue, and that's with like transparencies and fog. It just didn't come through right. A lot of images or textures, you'll get sort of a checkerboard looking pattern, shadows, things like that. So the final part of Final Reality, where you have this, like, I don't know if it's a spaceship, but it's like this futuristic car flying through a futuristic city, and you have like a fog layer, you can definitely see, first of all, the frame rate isn't very good in that part of the benchmark, but you can tell the fog doesn't look right at all. It's very like checkboard. I don't know what the correct word would be for that, but it doesn't look great. It's got like that checkerboard pattern. So yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting with the Matrox G100. It seems to have the same issue with fog as the older cards, which I expected. So then we have 3D Mark 99. Again, didn't really perform great. Got a pretty abysmal 3D Mark score at the end. Again, same issues with like transparencies and a lot more little glitchy parts or things that just didn't look right. I suspect 99 Max, tries to use some features, more features than Final Reality does, being a later benchmarking tool. So more stuff probably that the G100 doesn't really support, and you can really tell in some of the like benchmark tests it does. But yeah, not the worst card I think I've ever seen with 3D Mark 99, but I was not impressed with its abilities in this benchmark. Now, as far as playing some games go, it actually did a bit better than I thought it would do. It didn't have a lot of issues with a lot of these games. They seem to be fine, perfectly playable on this system and this card. They look pretty decent. As I said, the 2D image quality was excellent in my opinion. So yeah, here's just a sampling of a couple games on this system and on the Matrox G100.
Please help! I barely escaped from the butcher. He killed my wife, my children. I beg of you, in the name of God, avenge them.
The smell of death surrounds me.
Be on time for once in your life.
Be nice.
Hey, give me a red claw.
One red claw coming up.
You hear me?
Now, some of those games we just looked at had some graphical issues, but I think they were all playable to a degree. Surprisingly, Red Alert 2 gave me issues. For instance, the FMVs just really wouldn't play, or they were like extremely choppy where you had to like skip through them. When it got into the game, it played a little bit better, but there was still a little bit of like skipping and like some extra sound skip. If you've heard in the previous parts there was extra like sound skipping, that's the sound card, but for some reason just Red Alert 2 gave a lot of issues, more so than the other games, at least getting it to run. Once you got into the gameplay, you know, it's mostly just like 2D sprites, so that wasn't bad. But yeah, the FMVs were just like a stuttering mess. And not only that, my capture device just refused to direct capture this game.
So I was going to pop in this Pentium 2 just to see if it would work. I believe it's a 300 megahertz, but I have a 233 that I could put in there as well. And if you see these little things here and here, unfortunately they physically prevent this from going in. So the Celeron, you know, it doesn't have that problem. It doesn't have the casing over it. So what I could do, I could either tear those or break those off, or I could take this Pentium 2 like out of its casing and install it. But I don't really have the will to do either of those things. So it'll just have to remain a mystery if it would have accepted the Pentium 2. So I'm just going to put this Celeron back on there. And if you want to get a better look at it, here is the Celeron out of the slot 1. And that was a look at another Compaq Deskpro. I have run into a few of these lately. Now, I never did fix the issue with this top here, part of the case. As you can see, it's flush on this end, and it is screwed in over there. But it is not over here. I mean, it's workable. It doesn't look great, but again, the case does have scratches. But there's that little flake of metal in here over here, and it's preventing this thing from closing completely. And it's really annoying me, but it's just not worth my time to fix. But yeah, it's a little annoying. But the machine itself is pretty nice for a retro rig. I would say nicer than the other Celeron-based machine we just looked at, the Dell L series, just because, first of all, it has AGP, so you get a little bit more options as far as video goes, and you get the options of a little bit more powerful cards, but you also have the 16-bit ISA slots for older sound cards and whatnot. So overall, I think you get decent options with this machine. You get these 3 5 1/4 inch slots to do what you will with. Again, with all these slots inside, it will make a decent DOS machine. Windows 9X, I think this machine also excels at. I think off the top of my head, this only does 66 megahertz front side bus. So we are limited there with like Pentium 2s. So I don't. This probably would take like a Celeron 300A, I think, and then you could overclock the heck out of it, maybe. I don't know. Now, as for the Matrox G100 that we looked at, it was surprisingly decent. I was a little impressed. It did a little bit better than I thought in the games. I mean, not great. Obviously, we see it definitely has issues with things like those transparencies and shadows and fog. But that's been an issue. The Mystique and the Millennium also had those issues, so that doesn't surprise me too much. But overall, it performed pretty decent. And although you couldn't see it through the capture methods and the YouTube compression, the 2D image quality on the card was actually quite good. It was very crisp, and the colors were very nice when I was viewing it on my VGA CRT monitor. It looked really nice, actually, as far as, like I said, colors and sharpness goes. So I think it's a decent card. Like, not my first or second choice for these kind of retro builds. It's decent to match with like a Voodoo 1 or 2, but then again, I also have to say, I don't think there's any cases where you would use a G100 where a G200 card wouldn't be better to use. And from my experience, they're easier to come by, they're just faster, I believe they support more features. So I just don't know why you'd use a G100 if you wanted to use a Matrox from the from this era. I just don't see why you wouldn't use a G200 over a G. Like, why would you use a G100 when you have a G200 that's just better? Unless you're going for maybe a specific era and like the G200 is just like out of the question because you're trying for a specific time frame. Okay, but I don't know if that card has anything over the G200. Let me know if you can think of some reason. I don't know, older driver compatibility, maybe? I don't even think there. But anyways, that's the video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.